Hi everyone, this is Sajid from Discover Coworking. With me, I have Todd from LaunchHouse, which is a co-working space based out of near Cleveland, Ohio. And Todd is the co-founder and CEO of LaunchHouse. So today we are going to find out about his why, what brought them to co-working space, how they got started, and everything around it. With that, Todd, thank you very much for joining us. A pleasure having you. Please, tell us why. Why do this thing?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're really excited about this opportunity. Launch House has been around about a decade. We started in May of 2008. So, obviously not the optimal time to start a business. Originally being from Cleveland, I went away to college. I went to school in Providence, Rhode Island. And like most 20 somethings, was determining whether I go back to Cleveland or go to some of the other thriving cities like New York, Boston, Chicago, California. And I remember, I just graduated college. It was November of 2003. I came home for Thanksgiving, and I was having lunch with my grandfather, who was telling me about how Cleveland used to be the greatest place. I mean, in the 1950s, there were more Fortune 1000 companies than anywhere else in the country. At one time, it was called the Sixth City because it was the sixth largest city in the U.S. And I was looking around Cleveland and I did not see a single person that I knew that was under the age of 25 living in Cleveland. I did not see a lot of entrepreneurial activity going on. So definitely was not one place where people could all come together to start and grow their business. So I went back to college, packed my stuff up, and I, went on a job interview in New York City. And ultimately, after the job interview, I thought about the conversation I had with my grandfather, and I said, you know something, I'm going to go back to Cleveland. So, just like most entrepreneurs, you just can't come back and start something. So I got a full-time job. I started investing in the real estate space, doing some like residential rehabs and rentals. And as I was working for this company, I got recruited to join a medical technology startup company in a suburb outside of Cleveland. And I spent 2 years at that company, but while I was doing it, I was an entrepreneur on the side with my own real estate business. And I really recognized that, there wasn't really a place for young entrepreneurs in Cleveland. There wasn't ways to get access to small amounts of capital like what was happening in Boston and California and Chicago. At the same time, I met my co-founder who had been from Cleveland, went to Cornell, came back to Cleveland, started a similar business in the real estate space, and we both looked at each other and said, we're at a pivotal point. We're both 25. No one we know that's young is coming back to Cleveland. So either we can do something to make a difference, or we should move to another city. And really, we spent a lot of time doing a lot of research, looked at best practices across the country. And at that time, co-working wasn't even a thing. The closest thing related to co-working was really incubators, which came out of the like mid '90s internet boom and bust.
Yes.
And so what we decided to do was we went on the limb. We rented two 10 by 10 offices above a pizza shop in a city called University Heights. And we said, we're going to go out and we're going to meet everyone and anyone we can who could help an entrepreneur or small business grow. In addition, we're going to provide small amounts of capital between $500 and $2,000 to help start entrepreneurs go from idea to minimal viable product. And very quickly, we went from the two of us in the 10 by 10 office to, people showing up, every week at our door saying, can you connect us to someone? Can you brainstorm something with us? How do I build an MVP? How do you raise capital? And really for us, it was the starting of creating our community. And from that point, we started hosting events. So one of the first events we ever hosted was called Whiteboard Wednesday. The idea was, like it sounds, we had a whiteboard. We had 3 or 4 entrepreneurs that were pitching their idea. We invited everyone in the community that we thought maybe would come. And I remember that evening, we really had no idea who was going to come. So we got a 6-pack, we got a pizza. We're like, it's either going to be the two of us or it's going to be someone. Sure enough, I remember that night like it was yesterday. We had about 10 people show up. A couple people pitched, a couple people gave feedback. I never forget. One woman left crying because she was told her idea wasn't good, and she probably realized it wasn't good. We had another person who realized I'm probably not cut out to be an entrepreneur. I think two other people like maybe we should be co-founders. And really, what we recognized from that point, which really kind of allowed us to then kind of just continue to build on to where we are today, was that it's not just about space. It's not about capital you give to entrepreneurs. It is really the community you put around entrepreneurs, growing businesses, freelancers that help make them successful. And from that point on, it was just growth for LaunchHouse. And I can get more into that, or unless you want to, talk about something different.
No, please go on. I don't want you to. I mean, wow, what an amazing story, and I'm so glad that I'm talking to you because I did not know, right? And the world needs to know, like how someone is changing the face of Cleveland or Ohio, for that matter, right? So please continue on. Then I will ask you. I'm taking notes as you are speaking, so I'm gonna ask you questions on some of the topic that I want to drill deeper. So please.
Sure. So, after we've taken over the two 10 by 10 offices, within a few months we've taken over a few more offices, and then just like any entrepreneur, we were like, well, where are we going to go next? So there was a dental office adjoining our space that had never been used in like 30 years. So we went to the landlord and we said, can we rent this space? And he's like, sure, but you have to take it as is. So imagine a dental office that hasn't been used in probably 30 years. So we literally knocked through the wall and got our community to come together to actually build that space out. But again, we expanded that space, and before we knew it, we filled all that space as well. We were having these events that had grown from 10 people at a conference room to 100 people. So imagine 100 people trying to stuff into a really small space. And so we started to recognize that we needed more space, and we couldn't rent, the bottom of a pizza shop to host a single event. It just cost too much money. So we got connected with a local real estate developer in the city of Cleveland, and he had just bought a building that was going to be converted to a hotel. And right next door to that, he had purchased a former flower shop that he was going to knock down and make into a parking lot. And so we met him, and he said, I bought this building. I'm knocking it down in a year. You can move into it. He goes, I don't even care what happens to it. More or less, just don't kill anyone. So he gave us the keys. And this is 105th and Carnegie. And so that's probably no reference to you, but if you think 105th and Carnegie, the city of Cleveland, 2008 or 2009, it wasn't the safest area. And so we decided, like entrepreneurs, well, we believe that we're building something special here. We got the keys, we unlocked the door, we took the boards off the windows, we threw the keys in the garbage and put out an announcement that said we're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People were like, wait a second, where are you located? 105th and Carnegie. And the idea was that if you were an entrepreneur, if you were an investor, if you were a mentor, if you were just a co-working freelancer, and you wanted to work out of a space or take meetings, come to our space, come be part of it. Where they used to prepare the flowers in the back, we have a box of chalk where people could chalk out their own desks. And in the garage, we made the first makerspace in northeastern Ohio. And the idea was, let's show that this can be done from a grassroots standpoint. We don't need lots of money to build a community. It really is all about bringing people together, hosting events, providing small amounts of capital for entrepreneurs. At that point, we were providing everything for free because we were trying to prove the model. Just like any other startup, this was our proof of concept. So fast forward about 8 months, we knew that our time was finite, and we had to find a new space. And so at the time, I was a resident in the city of Shaker Heights, and they had an area of Shaker that the city was calling South Shaker, and that was an area they were talking about doing a lot of different things with. It had been hit really hard by the foreclosure crisis in 2008 and 2009, and the city had received $500,000 to knock down a former car dealership. And, I read about this. I approached the mayor and I said, it's my understanding you're going to knock this building down. It's going to be a grass field or a bus depot, something that's not good for the local community. And I approached them and I said, well, instead of knocking it down, why don't you make it home to LaunchHouse and our handful of companies, and we're going to build this as a central innovation entrepreneurial hub in northeastern Ohio. And so ultimately we came to agreement, and from 2000, we moved in June of 2011. But, just like any opportunity, we signed the agreement in 2010. construction's supposed to start. We're going out, we're building momentum. But just like anything, us being a younger organization as well, we face challenges, we face hiccups because we're depending on the city and their development to get this building done, and we have no control. And so during that time period, we moved into like a strip center that's literally like 1,000 square feet, and we had all these people signed up to move into this car dealership that we were converting to LaunchHouse. And as months went by, delay, we started losing a lot of the people that were going to move in. So finally, we moved in June of 2011 to this phenomenal grand opening. We had over 1,000 people there, and we really kind of hit the ground running. And the idea behind it was, that's where we really kind of formalized from. You just can't come to LaunchHouse for free. You could come and be a flex member for $125 a month at the time. You could rent an office for $500 a month. We grew our maker space from about 2,000 square feet to about 5,000 square feet, and we continue to invest in businesses. But the idea was really driven by the community. Bringing the right people together in one place and putting the right support around them is what makes a co-working community successful. So we spent 5 years in Shaker Heights. We grew our investment portfolio from a handful of companies to 65 companies. We grew our community. The building was 100% occupancy. We were looking at, our lease was only for 5 years, and things are going great, right? Just like any entrepreneur, when things go well, something always has to happen, right? And so we then, the city, we knew our leases come to an end. We went to the city of Shaker Heights and we said, we'd like to make this our permanent home. We're 100% occupied. We've had a lot of success here. We've done, over 500 events to bring entrepreneurs together. We really want to call this our home. We want to buy the building and make it LaunchHouse's permanent home. And you would think the answer would be, sure, let's make a deal, right? Well, the city had something else planned. So after presenting to city council, the next morning I get a phone call from a reporter at Cranes Magazine saying, I heard Todd Goldstein's out and the city of Shaker is taking over your business. And I said, what? I just said it. I offered to buy their building, and now they want to take over my business. And so more or less, the city of Shaker Heights decided and looked at our financials as our partner and said, you guys must be making so much money doing co-working, we're going to kick you out and we're going to keep all your revenue. And so, we said, okay, we're going to move. We had no choice, right? What do entrepreneurs do when their back's against the wall? They pick up and they make decisions, and, you got to pivot. You got to do things to keep your business going. So literally, as this kind of untangled, and we're fighting, the city is telling us you have to get out, and they're trying to take over our business. Well, first and foremost, we owned the name LaunchHouse. We had trademarked it. While the city thought they had claim to it, then they realized, well, you can't take claim to something you don't own. Second of all, we always knew it wasn't about the building. The sexy, cool car dealership. Everyone, the city thought, well, it's got to be about the building, right? It's got to be about all these people are absolutely going to stay. Why would they follow Todd Goldstein and LaunchHouse? Well, so sure enough, on a Tuesday, on a Monday, the landlord of the building we're in now, Carrie and Evan Klossman, called me and said, we want you. Come see our space. So we brought the community over here to see the space. It was about 8,000 square feet. And I walked in, and it was in an industrial park, a typical commercial office building. So think about it. I'm walking out of a cool, awesome car dealership that was retrofitted to be a co-working space, and now I'm moving into a very vanilla office building. So came on Tuesday, literally went back to the office, looked at my employees and said, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, how am I going to make this move? So what do you think I did next? I called on my community. I said, we're going to have a town hall meeting, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. And everyone showed up. 30 people showed up, and they said, we support you. We are in this for the community, not for the building. That following week, we signed a lease. That Thursday, we started packing up. That Saturday, the whole LaunchHouse community came together on a Saturday. And by that Monday, we were completely moved out and operational in our new location. Why do I tell this story? Because I'm sure there are entrepreneurs out there who have faced similar challenges. Every business has challenges, and it's really about how you overcome those challenges. So fast forward, we moved out exactly 2 years ago into our new location. We started 8,000 square feet. 90% of our community came with us. Pretty much almost everyone came with us except for maybe one or two people. But what it allowed us to do is really focus in on what we do best, and that's really co-working, building co-working communities. We stopped making investments. We went all in on helping and building a strong co-working community in Northeastern Ohio. So we moved into this space 2 years ago, and we do, every month we do two happy hours just for the general entrepreneurial community, startup community, growing business community, all come together in one place. We do something called Lunch and Learn. So that's where we get speakers to come in and talk about their business or teach our community about different topics at a really like a 5,000 foot level. And then this year we actually started something called our How To series, and that's practical educational programming. So we looked around the region and we said, what are other organizations doing besides the LaunchHouse? Well, they're introducing you to people that could sell you a product. I'm an attorney. They'd have an attorney come speak about why you should use their firm or an accounting firm. And we said, well, how does that help an entrepreneur who has very limited money? So what we did was we said, we're going to find people that will teach practical knowledge. How do you set up your own LLC? How do you file your own tax returns? How do you create your own social media following? And we have over 85 topics that we've created that help guide not just small businesses, not just startups, but also employees of companies, people that just want to be educated in specific topics. But the idea is the more you broaden your co-working community, the more touch points you have to bring people in, whether that's as mailbox members, flex members, or office members. One more exciting thing. So January of this year, every January we have a large event called the LaunchHouse Bootstrap Bash. And that's where we do a big party to celebrate entrepreneurship in the region. This year we had over 400 people. We celebrated an amazing entrepreneur named Steve Potash who founded a company called Overdrive. Well, after that event, we got a call from a local growing entrepreneurial company, and they said, we want to move the LaunchHouse. We need 4 offices. And I said, well, I can't help you right now. We're completely full. So I walked into my office, and I looked at the space next to ours. And I said, well, this space is 4 offices, is about 400 square feet. This space is about 5,000 square feet. So I went on the limb, as I've always done. And I said, I will get you a space, but you got to give me, but I'm not sure, when, but I will have a space for you. They said, well, we got to move in 3 weeks. I said, okay, we'll move in 3 weeks. So we painted the walls, we went to the landlord, we painted, carpeted, we opened up the space with the 4 tenants, and within a month, we had filled another 10 tenants. So we completely filled that space. And so really, when you think about what LaunchHouse is, it's a community that brings entrepreneurs, freelancers, startups, people across every aspect of life and business together in one place to start and grow their business.
Very nice. I think you answered many of my questions in that whole thing. But however, I I do have to ask you about. There is a co-founder, so let's get him in the front as well. What's his name? And tell us more about him. I'm sure he was instrumental in this journey as well.
Yeah, so my co-founder is named Dar Caldwell. He's no longer involved in the business from a day-to-day standpoint. He lives in California. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing out there. He kind of went off the grid. He's a very entrepreneurial person as well, and real great guy. He was the yin to my yang in the very early years of getting LaunchHouse started. And as the organization progressed, he really wanted to kind of move to California and kind of go off the grid. He was very much an agricultural type of guy and liked working with kids. And I think he's actually working with kids, teaching them how to do like agricultural stuff in California today.
Very nice.
But LaunchHouse would not have been where it is today without him, and without our ability to kind of feed off one another. The things I was good at, there were things that he was good at that I wasn't, and vice versa. And our ability to really feed off that allowed us to be successful in the very early years of LaunchHouse.
Very, very nice. Thank you, Todd. So tell us, I mean, for people like myself who haven't been to LaunchHouse, so we have not had the opportunity to meet your community. So tell us more about your community. I mean, what are some of the stuff they're working on, how are they impacting the local community, and what's going on there.
Sure. So, Launch House, a lot of co-working communities throughout the country, they're very focused on specific industries.
Yes.
From the start, Launch House made the choice as being agnostic. That it was really about bringing the right people together. So we have freelancers whose companies are based out of North Carolina that work at a Launch House. We have companies that started as an idea that are now have several employees that work at a Launch House that are in the technology space. We have companies that do tenant screening. We have a company that manufactures aluminum beams that's for the construction industry across the world. Um, we really have companies across all industries. So whether it's health, science, manufacturing, food, remote workers, freelancers, retirees, investors, we have high school kids that are members at Launch House. It really is a very diverse community, and the one thing that makes Launch House so different than anywhere else is the idea that we are a family. Like you could truly say that when people get married, they invite other members to their weddings. We do a Launch House Thanksgiving every year to bring the community together and families together. It's our really community is really built on trust and really helping one another. So no one in Launch House would ever say, I want you to sign an NDA before you hear my idea. Because every Tuesday at Launch House, if you have an idea, we get everyone in the conference room, you pitch your idea, and everyone gives you feedback. Or if you have a problem the business is trying to solve, people come together and help that business owner try and solve those problems. So it's probably in all the co-working spaces I've been in throughout the country, it's really one of our differentiating factors is the programming we've created and the type of community we've created around that programming to help our members be successful.
You know, you're right, and seems like you have a very good thing going on over there. And I'm gonna ask you, what's the magic sauce, or what's the magic, man? I mean, how did you make it the way it is? I mean, not every co-working space is like the way it operate. Every co-working space operate the way you are sharing it with me. So, what's your secret sauce?
I really think it really is the people that we've been able to bring together, and I think it's also the team that helps operate Launch House. We really have a shared vision, and along the way, over the last decade, it's really been about the people we've been able to bring together. And I believe in every city and every community throughout the country, those people exist. But you need a catalyst, right? You need someone to pull those people out of their homes, out of their basements, out from behind their desks, and bring them together in one place. And it's very tough to do. And a lot of organizations in Cleveland have started and failed over the last decade since we started Launch House. A lot of organizations have started and failed throughout the country. Some have also been very successful. And I think that when we look at Launch House and we look at how do we expand Launch House, it's taking what our secret sauce is and how we were able to do it here, and then allowing other communities to replicate it allow other communities to replicate in such a way where it will never be exactly like this launch house, but we can provide the foundation to create a launch house in every community.
Oh, very nice. I think that would be awesome. Now, you touched on team, so can you tell us more about your team? Who do you have, and how do they assist in what things they do?
Sure. So we have 6 people that work on our team. And so if you think about launch house, you probably think of launch house as one location. So up until about 3 months ago, launch house only had one location, which is now about 13,000 square feet. Um, but just like opportunities come, we had an opportunity to then partner with a successful entrepreneur in Lakewood, which is a city on the west side of Cleveland. So Launch House is currently on the east side. The Lakewood is on the west side. There's a big joke in Cleveland that east doesn't go west, west doesn't go east. Not sure why, because there's a freeway. But they came to us in the city of Lakewood and said, we have this program called Startup Lakewood, but we want to create a physical space in a community where we can all come together in one place. And so they put out an RFP, and our partner out there had applied, and the opportunity presented itself for us to create a Lakewood launch house as well. And so, really the way our structure is today is that, at each location we have a community manager, and they're really responsible for all the day-to-day things that happen at Launch House. And then from a corporate level, we have a handful of employees. So we have Jadia, who is the head of operations. Eddie, who you corresponded with, he's the head of our PR and marketing and communications, but he also does a lot of operations and strategic growth.
Okay.
Katie, who does our social media and marketing. And then we have several interns that work with us from local universities and high schools to help them give them real world experience about how to be part of an entrepreneurial community.
Very nice. Now, regarding the community managers, I mean, obviously, this is a role or a job that didn't exist like 10 years ago, right? This is something, a new economy role. So, how do you find your community managers? What's the filter out process? I mean, how do you know someone's going to be great at community managing or not?
Yeah, I'll say that's where we've been very fortunate over the years where we've been able to hire great people, and I think a lot of it lends to the culture we've created at LaunchHouse. But a lot of it you just know. I mean, I think when you meet someone and you could just tell that they're going to fit within your culture or they have the right skills to make your community better, a lot of it is a gut feeling, and it truly is. I know people say there's all this magic to hiring, but over the last 10 years, we've been very fortunate in the team we've created. Our team has changed significantly, so our team is a lot different today than it was even 5 years ago. But from a community manager standpoint, you're looking for someone who has no fear, right? Because this person is going to be going out to events and representing your organization. This person might be, plunging a toilet, right? They might be carrying boxes in with food. They might have to get up and present who the speaker is at the lunch and learn. At the same time, they're going to be doing documents to sign up new members. So you're really looking for someone who has a lot of talent, who can do a jack of all trades, but maybe not a master of one. But someone who really just has that really specific personality. If they're a go-getter, right? If there's a wall, they're going to run right through it. They're not going to take no for an answer. They're going to be personable. They're going to know how to connect people, and they're going to have a passion for what they do. Because in co-working and in the co-working community, you've got to be passionate. Because if your members and your community doesn't feel that you're passionate about what you're doing, that community will not thrive going forward.
Very nice. I'm glad I asked you because I think you started off with something very nice, and this is the first time I'm hearing is the word fearless, right? They have to be fearless, uh, and as I've never thought about it that way, but now that you mention it and bring it up, and I think you're right. A community manager has to be fearless because they have to wear multiple hats and run into different things. So thank you. So your too many notes. I've filled up my page. I just don't know where else to start. Okay, so your people are choosing to come out to your space. I mean, if you're in Ohio, I'm sure they all have extra space, room in their house or wherever they live in their residence. What exactly? I mean, I'm sure. What is that driving them? Is it the community? Is it the family bond, or is it the loneliness? What's bringing them out to Launch House?
So in our experience, it's several things. One is it's it's tough to work in your basement. It's tough to work in a coffee shop. How many times do you want to hear about the barista's life story? So I think one is that they want to be around like-minded people. No one wants to eat lunch with themselves and their dog every single day. And so one component is finding people that just want to be in a like-minded environment and be able to share and talk to other people. The second thing, which is probably the most important thing, it is the community. Imagine being able to come to one place every day and be surrounded by all sorts of people. And what's the benefit of that, right? You're learning new things, new experiences, new opportunities. At Launch House, you may come in here as an employee of one company, and 3 months later, you may be a partner in another company that you've now started and is fast growing. And so the opportunity around a co-working space is it's good for a freelancer to be around like-minded people, and as hurdles come up, other people can help you overcome them. It's good for people that just want to be in an environment where maybe they want to be around startups, or maybe want to start their own business but don't know where to start, and now they're sitting next to a guy who's starting a business who needs a co-founder. All the way up to, it's good for growing businesses because a lot of times a company may have 4 employees and their only option may be a 5 or 10 year lease. Well, if you have 4 employees and you're fast growing, you don't know if next month you're going to have 1 employee or 15 employees. And the idea behind a co-working community, it gives you that flexibility, that month to month. And so LaunchHouse has the ability to accommodate one person at a flex desk, one person at an office, or a 30-person company that needs 15 offices. And that's really what draws people to LaunchHouse. It's that flexibility. It's also the reach. So today, LaunchHouse is in Highland Heights and in Lakewood. Well, if you have a meeting in Highland Heights or on the east side, you can use LaunchHouse Highland Heights. If you have a meeting on the west side, you can use LaunchHouse Lakewood. It's one fee, but our goal is to build a network of launch houses where whether you're in Cleveland or anywhere else, you can use LaunchHouse as your home.
Very nice. By the way, I was gonna, and I forgot to ask this about you. And not, you know. So, what did the city end up doing? Now that they finally taken over your space, did they make it a bus depot or? I'm very curious. Do you know what happened to that space where you were in before?
Sure. So, their plan was from day one to open up a competing space, right? So they thought the day we left Shaker Heights, they would walk in the next day. They thought all the furniture was going to stay. They thought all the tenants will stay. Well, they walked in the next day, and they had an empty building with about 2 tenants. And when we left that building, there were probably 40. So, they are, my understanding is they're continuing to try and operate a co-working space. I know they've now been through several different operators. Because at the end of the day, cities don't operate co-working communities. They don't operate co-working spaces. It's the people that make co-working work. And so, as much as, I could see it from their point, right? They looked at the dollars and cents. They looked at 18 offices filled. That equates to X number of dollars of revenue per month. If everyone stays, well, day one, I don't have, Todd's not getting the revenue, we're getting the revenue, now we've got a profit center. They didn't take into account the personal nature of a co-working community and really the bond that the people have within the community. Just like any company, there's a culture, there's a bond that's created that's very similar for any good co-working community. And I'll be honest, there's very few co-working communities I've been to in this country that actually truly have that cultural community bond. And it's something I believe is where the opportunity is. Going into a community, creating a culture, creating that bond amongst people, and then growing co-working communities throughout the country.
I just still cannot wrap my head around this thought, which is why would a city get into a business? Cities are not, a city should not be running a business, let alone a co-working business, right? They should be making rules, clearing out the pathway, saying, hey, Todd, go run this business for you. What do you need? Let us enable you, rather than saying, we want the money. I mean, it's all backwards. Or maybe it's just me.
Yeah, so when we went to Shaker, not to go back to Shaker, but we actually approached them, and as part of it, we set up a community improvement corporation. And that was part of our relationship with them, and so they ultimately used that community improvement corporation to take over that building. So again, but it's still part of the city, right? And so I think their motive was, well, this can now help fund salaries that are indirectly part of the city, right? I mean, the revenue goes to them, that's salaries they can fund, not salaries that LaunchHouse can fund. To me, I'm still baffled by it, and it's been 2 years, but, I wish them the best of luck, and I hope they have all the success in the world.
Thank you. I mean, that's, Todd, one thing I will tell you by talking to you the last 30 minutes or so, I walk away with is that, you're a very good person at heart, very big-hearted, and you're doing a lot for your community, which is, really I think is one of the things probably is making LaunchHouse this special, so it's making it grow. So, I mean, as we wrap up, I want to ask you a question and I always do to all the co-working operators I talk to or founders, is that what's your advice for someone who is just thinking of opening a space, right? I mean, we talked about a lot of things, you touched on a lot of things, and you went through a lot of struggles, ups and downs, and you have a lot of experience now. So what would be your advice to someone who's new? What would you tell them? How should they start? Or if they want to, copy some of the things that you have done at LaunchHouse, what would you tell them?
So that's a great question. It's funny because 10 years ago, I had no idea what LaunchHouse would become. But, and then, when we were in Shaker, we tried to do a lot of different things for a lot of people. But, over the last several years, we've really focused on co-working and community and really how to do it right and taking all of our trials and tribulations to get it right. And so we've actually have created a model, pretty much a launch house in the box. So if you are in a community out there, if you are a entrepreneur thinking about starting a co-working space, if you're a building owner that has extra real estate and recognize that this is a way to increase the value of your rental income, which it is for building owners, if you're a nonprofit or a city that is looking to say, okay, how do we create a hub in our community to keep businesses, to keep entrepreneurs, you know, we've come up with this model, this launch house in a box, to allow people to reach out to us, and we will provide them with everything they need to create and start a launch house in their community, so they don't have to go through 10 years of ups and downs, and really learn from our best practices to do it. Not every launch house will be the same, but we think that we can provide the overall guidance to allow them to start and grow a successful launch house community in their own community.
I think that's a brilliant idea, and I hope anyone watching this video or reading, because we will actually transcribe or make a summary of our conversation into a text, like an article as well, that get in touch with Todd at LaunchHouse. Get their formula, see what worked. Why go through the 10 years of trials and tribulations, ups and downs, when you can just fast track your success to knowing what's working and use that. Don't experiment. I don't know if Todd was smart or he was this entrepreneur in him that he wanted to go through ups and downs, but at the same time, you started off when, like you said, co-working was a very new concept, right? No, I didn't think even the word was tossed around at that time. It was like, oh, let's get together and work together, right? That was the
Yeah, it wasn't really, co-working wasn't a word. And, I give organizations like WeWork and Regis a lot of credit because they brought the name co-working to the forefront, and they're great organizations and spaces, and we admire a lot of what they do, and we just look at ourselves as being a little different, and we're focused on the communities where there isn't WeWork or Regis.
Very nice, very nice. Well, Todd, I think you have something very good going on. I really appreciate you taking the time and talking to me and sharing your story. It's an absolutely story that everyone needs to know. And again, it provides an avenue for someone who's thinking of going into co-working, especially in that suburban, rural area, can use that launch house in a box and fast track their success.
Thank you. And I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Likewise. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
You take care.
Thanks.